Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us. I'd like to thank Jeff Schwartz, the agent for Brandon, and Lonzo, who's here today, the family of our players that have come to join us. This is a really exciting day for us as a group, and it's really the culmination of many other days, and a lot of work that was put in by a front office staff with Trajan and Swin. You've heard me say their names quite often. There were some other people involved in this that had a great deal to do with what we call landing the plane on this big idea. And I'd like to recognize them just briefly. J.J. Polk, our attorney, Shane Kupperman, Mark Chazanoff, who work with us in the cap space, Bryson Graham, our assistant general manager. We really got contributions. Yaron Arbel, our international scouting director. We got contributions from the whole organization. And the fact that as many people were involved in this as there were, it really speaks to sort of the family we're trying to build and the approach that we're taking. It's an all hands on deck sort of approach. Mrs. Benson was very intimately involved in the process throughout. Dennis Lausch is here in the front row with Coach as well, Coach Gentry. This was something that was a really important effort for us, both in terms of the Anthony Davis trade, which we're very proud to say yielded the three gentlemen you see here that were with the Lakers, but also the trade that we were able to consummate with Utah relative to landing Derek Favors. Both Rob Pelinka and Dennis Lindsay, Justin Zanuck, all of them dealt with us in such a fair and direct way. The conversations were very honest, I felt. I think everybody was very mindful of the sensitivity involved in both situations. So I'd like to thank both the Laker and the Utah organizations for representing, I think, the league in a very admirable way throughout this process. I'll just touch on each one real briefly and then open it up for questions for them, because I know you'd much rather hear from them. Derek is somebody that, going back to the time I was in Cleveland, we'd always had a great deal of affinity for. Derek was in a situation where he was probably best suited as a center, and he was playing behind one of maybe the 5 best centers in the league. It makes it hard to play the natural position that you should play. So he was asked to play what we considered out of position a lot at the 4 in a league that's gotten progressively smaller. They were bigger than everyone else in the front court. And so I think what happened was a lot of Derek's game was probably left untouched, particularly offensively. He's a special defensive player, and I touched on this in the press release. He's an elite rim protector and somebody who can do a lot of different things on the defensive end to change a game. We feel like he can do the same thing offensively, and I know Coach Gentry's really excited about what he'll look like playing center on a full-time basis for us. And I think he and his agent, Wallace Prather, who were great to work with in this process, also kind of represented immediately, or recognized immediately, that we represent a new opportunity for him. And I think they were excited to join the Pelicans family. They were probably not quite as excited as I was to get Derek, but close. Wallace was really a good partner in the process, and we're grateful for him. Lonzo is somebody that most everybody knows, I think, in terms of the strengths of his game from a passing perspective, the elite floor vision that he has. The thing that excited us the most, and Coach Gentry and I spent a lot of time talking about this group here on the dais, with the exception of myself, are very elite defensively. And we have a chance to be special good on that side of the ball. Somac in our analytics area likes to say that our games are going to be the first team to 95. And we'd like that to be the case. Alvin plays a style of ball that everybody looks at on the offensive side and says we shoot a bunch of threes and we play fast. Well, what that means is we have to have the ability to defend at that same rate. And Lonzo is a truly special defensive guard. He's also a special rebounding guard, and that's going to enable us to start our break. It's going to enable us to play to a lot of his strengths in a way that perhaps he wasn't able to play to before. We feel very similarly about Brandon and Brandon's ability to do some things that he wasn't getting the opportunity to do. You know, both Lonzo and Brandon have had issues along the way with injuries that I think have somewhat derailed the momentum they would gain early on in their career. They're so young and they're so talented. So much was expected, and everybody wants it to happen really quickly. We don't want it to happen quickly. We want it to happen at the right time. And the universe doesn't make mistakes. We feel like it brought everybody here together for a reason, and we know that we're going to play to the strengths of the group as a whole. I think Brandon recognized that. I know Lonzo did when we spoke for the first time with Coach after the trade. Everybody was very aware of the fact that this was a special opportunity for all of us in terms of fit. So I think that really is a big theme for us and everything we tried to do throughout the free agency process as well with the other acquisitions we were able to make. And Josh is somebody who, very similar to Brandon, some really untouched upside. I think Brandon's ability as an elite playmaker and a long athletic defender is going to enable him to play multiple positions. We feel like Josh can do the same thing, and he's a shot maker from multiple positions on the court, which is really important for us. It's going to give Alvin a great deal of lineup versatility. Now, I've not really had the opportunity to talk to very many players during a trade deadline or during a draft process where anybody was more direct with me than Josh was. So I'd like to share this story. Josh called me before the draft, after we made the trade to acquire these gentlemen, and before the draft, and said, I know you can get a lot for me. And we literally had received offers for everybody here from the Lakers at that time. He said, whatever you do, don't trade me. I really want to be in New Orleans. And it meant a lot to us, because when you look at the situation the organization was in, is we're trying to sort of build this completely different culture led by Mrs. Benson and her complete commitment to this team. Having players that were equally committed to us was really meaningful. Derek Favors could have chosen to go almost anywhere, and Utah was going to accommodate that deal. Utah, out of respect for everything Derek had represented for their organization, was going to send him to the team Derek wanted to go to. And he chose us. These gentlemen here from the Lakers, they were going to be in demand a lot of different places, and they recognized the fit with us. They recognized the fit with Drew Holiday. And I think that's a very special and meaningful thing as we start to build from here. So I'd like to thank all of you for choosing us. We're going to continue to choose you and embrace you. And we just couldn't be happier that these four gentlemen are a member of our Pelicans family. So without further ado, let's open it up for you all to have some questions answered.
Alonzo, offensively, we talked to Coach Gentry in that time after you traded. What about the Pelicans offense intrigues you the most? Obviously, you excel in the open court. Is that something that excites you? And then you've seen what other point guards have been able to do in that offense.
Definitely. You know, I'm getting back to playing pretty much the style I've been playing my whole life. So I'm very comfortable in a high up-tempo offense, and that's what Coach Gentry has. So I'm going to run to the best of my abilities.
Derek, just to hear David Griffin gush about you and your untapped potential, from your conversations before you got here and then just continued conversations, what does that vision mean to you, and how much does that excite you?
Yeah, it means a lot to me. In the past years, you know, like he said, I was playing behind probably one of the best defensive players in the league for a long time, and I wasn't able to do a lot of things that I can do on a daily basis. So, you know, when we spoke and he said that, you know, we think you have untapped offensive skill set or whatever, and you know, I was excited about that. You know, so that was one of the reasons I chose to come here, because I knew on the position I'll be in, I knew the guys who I'll be playing with, like these three guys up here, and the organization and the team, and I just thought this was a great fit for me.
Derek, you guys sped up a little bit last year in Utah, but for the most part, you guys played at a pretty slow pace when you were the Jazz, and now it's gonna be an adjustment here. How much do you think that's gonna be a change for you playing in the up-tempo offensive system?
I can adapt to it. It was by design out there because the way we was playing. But coming down here and knowing that we're gonna play a fast pace, I can adapt to it.
Josh, David talked about the call when you said he wanted to be here. Why? What was so special about wanting to be here?
I think it's an amazing place where people generally love going to work every day. The talent that we have now, is amazing, and is something that's upcoming. I think it's the reason why JJ wanted to go here, why Derek wanted to go here. You see the potential in this organization and this city behind them. And that's something that you want to be a part of and you want to grow with. And when I had that opportunity, thought it was amazing, and I didn't want to let the opportunity slip.
Josh, other than the beignets, what appeals to you?
Yeah. Actually, I'm probably gonna go get some beignets tonight and back tomorrow. But like I said, how the city really rallies behind the sports franchises here, the Saints and obviously the Pelicans. We love that. When I come down here with two guys I've been with the last 2 years, that's an amazing. But I think I just really, besides the beignets, fell in love with the potential. Like I said, this team, this city, and the franchise. And like I said, when you see greatness happening, you want to be a part of.
Brandon, the last report that I saw about your progress after recovering from surgery was that you hadn't started shooting yet. Have you started shooting? How close do you? What would you say your percentages of your recovery is at this point?
I think I'm pretty close. I haven't been shooting, but I've been doing some form shooting, some lower body stuff, some ball handling, some passing stuff. So I'm pretty close to resuming to normal workouts right now. But I'm just doing some regular cardio stuff and just trying to get back.
So I'm almost ready to go. Probably another week or two, and I should be full-fledged. So just waiting on that.
Lonzo, I think this week there was an interview, I can't remember where it was, but you kind of spoke about having a chance at a fresh start with a new organization. And just coming here, a market that's obviously not as media crazy as like LA. What do you think this opportunity means for you to be able to kind of just have a clean slate to play with, if you will?
It means a lot. Like I said, it's a fresh start. It's a restart. I've been good at the game of basketball my whole life, so hopefully I can get back to that and just do what I can for the organization. I know the media is not like it was in LA, but I know the fans are great. They're going to come out and support, and we're going to put on a show for them.
I guess this question is for each of you, if you'd like. How do you guys feel about coming to a team that's got Drew Holiday already on it, and then, of course, they just drafted and got Zion Williamson?
I think it's an amazing experience. Obviously, Drew, I think, is probably one of the most underrated guards or underrated players really in the league, and someone who's amazing on both ends of the floor. So being able to learn from someone like him, and then obviously having an amazing talent like Zion, coming in, help him grow, help him, learn and mature in this league. I think that's going to be amazing, and learn from both of them, because they're both high character guys.
Derek, one thing I noticed whenever you left Utah was your teammates, including Gobert, and we go down the list. Honestly, we're obviously really upset that you were departing, but just how great a teammate you were, that was one thing that they continually pointed out. What do you think from a leadership standpoint you bring to the locker room and the energy that you're able to cultivate with your teammates?
I think out there we were just a tight-knit group. Everybody respected everybody, and everybody worked hard, and guys looked up to everybody, and hopefully I can bring the same mindset here. Just come in, work hard every day, just have respect for each other. Sometimes you might have to sacrifice minutes or scoring opportunities just for the betterment of the team, and I think once everybody buy into that, I think that's how you get tighter as a group, and you start winning more games, and the games started to become a little bit more fun after that. So hopefully I can bring that same mindset down here.
Something you talk about a lot with these guys and all of the rest of your acquisitions this summer about the character of everybody. Why was that such an important thing for you?
Yeah, I think, again, all four of these guys represent the same thing. These are guys that have won throughout their career at a pretty high level, and understand what that means. Derek just spoke of the sacrifice and the willingness to do what it takes to win. I think everybody here has that. I also think relative to the guys that are here from the Laker trade, I think those guys all had won a great deal at one point before they were in that situation, and I think they recognize that a big part of what lies ahead of us is playing to the strengths of all of them, which is encouraging. But in terms of the character these guys have as winners, that spoke to us a great deal. Josh, obviously, having won a national championship in school, came into play as well. And we talked about this with Swin and with Trajan. We want to surround ourselves with people that have won championships on any level, because it's a frequency that you learn how to tune to. And I think the thing that we're most excited about all of these guys is that they either have tuned to it on a regular basis or have an enormous desire to get back to it.
Derek, did you have an opportunity to speak with Drew Holiday since they went through and do you have a prior relationship with him? Have you been able to keep in touch during your time in the league?
Yeah, I known Drew since high school. Actually, we played against each other a lot doing AAU, and after the trade was announced, he sent me a text and we exchanged a couple of text messages, and that was it. But yeah, I known Drew for a while now.
And Lonzo, I mean, obviously, y'all are both UCLA guys, so what's the relationship like with you?
I don't know him too well. Like I said, he texted me just like Derek after the trade went down. But I'm real close with his brother. I played with Aaron at UCLA, so I'm close with that family. We respect them, they respect us, and I can't wait to play with them, honestly.
Right. How deep do you think this team is now in over an 82-game season when so much happens during that time? How critical is it to have a large number that you can refer to at any time that you know?
Yeah, and I think getting back to Will's question also, one of the things that I'm excited about is not just that we're really deep. We're deep with selfless winners. We're deep with selfless, high-character guys who want to play any role they need to, and that's important. I think the fit of our pieces is potentially really good. Coach Gentry and his staff are going to have a little bit of a challenge just finding the right mix, I think, in minutes for everybody. We don't have J.J. Redick here today as part of this conversation, but when you look at what he offers us in terms of a fit with these four gentlemen here, when you think about the opportunity we have with Nicolo Melli as a floor spacing big, we feel like we can be a little bit of a Swiss Army knife, and the depth of our pieces are all guys that are selfless in nature in the way they play. We've got a lot of ancillary ball handling. Zion Williamson is really best as a playmaker. He's not somebody who's focused on scoring. He just wants to do whatever it takes to win. And obviously Drew is really the guy who's going to carry the mail to a huge degree, and I think he recognizes that, and he'll represent that energy on both sides of the court, which is special for us.
Brandon, are you eager to kind of get a fresh start? I mean, after it's been obviously a turbulent year for injury and what happened there, and the way the season ended and the Lakers, what does this kind of mean to move on to the new chapter?
I think I'm just eager to pick up a basketball, period. I think the last time I picked up a basketball and actually played a game of basketball was in March. So every chance that I get, I'm just going to continue to work to get better in the gym and continue to train my mind.
Did you fear at any point that you weren't going to be able to play again? Is that ever something that crossed your mind?
No, people were giving me good advice about the recovery of my surgery, so I just stayed on my rehab and just kept it going.
Brandon, before you were stricken with that condition, do you feel like you were coming into your own, like basically showing the NBA what you can do with your talents in this league?
I thought I was. I thought I finally felt comfortable in just going out and playing basketball. I wasn't thinking as much. I was just letting the game come to me. And I was just doing everything that I practiced in the gym before games, so it just came easy.
Lonzo, when you think about the defensive capability of this team, and you look at yourself, Drew at the top, Brandon on the wing, Zion on the wing, Derek in the post, how formidable do you really think that this team can be at shutting people down?
It could be a lot of potential. All those guys you just named are great defenders. And I don't do a lot of talking. I like to let our game do the talking, but I think we could be one of the best defensive teams in the league.
Josh, is it exciting to be a part of a team that's kind of all brand new? I mean, this is Drew Holiday's here, Gary Swimmers here. For the most part, it's a lot of new pieces kind of coming in place. How does that kind of make you feel as you enter a team that's basically put together on the spot?
It's encouraging. Because, like you said, everyone here is new. Everyone here is of high character and selfless, and we're able to buy into what this organization, what the city is about. And when you have that, and you have selfless people, that breeds winning, and that's what we want to be as an organization. And I think the front office did a great job of forming this team.
Hey, Josh and Brandon, as guys that have got to play with Lonzo for a few years, I guess, what are the parts of his game that it's hard to appreciate if you're just looking in the box score or just watching highlights? I guess some of the other stuff he brings to the game.
I think from my point of view, just where he is on the defensive end, I think the anticipation, the passes, just being in the right place at the right time, and that doesn't always show up on the stat sheet. He's just there for deflections, always helping the teammate out. He's just always there.
Yeah, I'll probably say the same. There was a clip last year, I think it was last year, we played in Orlando, and Zoe literally guarded every single player on one possession. It was, he closed out, someone drove, kicked it, he closed out to that person, defended that person. Another breakdown happened, he guarded that person. So you don't see that on the box score. You see the points, the assists, the rebounds, et cetera, but you don't see how hard he plays on the defensive end and just how hard he plays in general. So that's something that you have to watch and really appreciate the game to appreciate that.
Griff, whether it's winning the #1 overall pick or I think just last week saying you think Drew has the ability to be an MVP in this league, you seem to have a very zen-like approach about energy and cultivating belief. I wonder just what the genesis of that is, and have you always had that as a part of your personality, or was that something that was developed over time to be able to try to create that positive energy in people, because it seems to be contagious?
So I became a general manager after starting in the league as a game night intern in media relations. Did not play at a very high level at all. The only reason I'm sitting here is because I believe you can speak it into existence and you can dedicate yourself to that what you believe in. So yeah, absolutely. I've always had a little bit of that to me. I was joking with Derek that leading up to that trade, we were trying to generate the energy that was going to make that happen. And I would just talk about him constantly, just trying to speak it into existence of what he would look like on our roster. Alvin heard me say the day I had the press conference that we were going to win the draft lottery. And a lot of that came from Jeff Cohen, one of the owners in Cleveland, who was one of Dan's partners. He's now no longer part of that group. Jeff liked to say that if you see it, you can believe it. And I've always seen it. And I think in terms of fit of pieces, Alvin was with us in Phoenix and he saw the fit of the pieces we were able to put around Steve. I remember when we signed Steve Nash, everybody said we had grossly overpaid him at $11 million a year. And then all he did was win 2 MVP awards back to back. I'm not saying Drew has to do that for this to be a successful season, but there's no reason in the world any of us should limit what we dream of. Look at what the NBA's become and the way teams are built. You can't dream big enough in this league. So I think I want everybody's approach to this to be, why not us? There's no reason we can't achieve anything we want to achieve. And when I sat with Drew for the first time, he jumped out of his skin at the challenge of no longer being recognized as the most underrated player in the league or the most underrated guard. He wants to accept the challenge of taking the next step. And every one of these guys was exactly the same way. So there's no reason to limit the scope of what you're trying to do in your life. It doesn't make any sense.
Something you and Alvin have talked about a lot is how fast you want this team to play next year. I guess how much you're looking forward to see these guys on the court and the type of pace they're experiencing.
Yeah, there was a moment, Trajan and I were sitting next to each other at Summer League, and there was a moment where Jackson Hayes was out running the floor in a practice with Zion on the other side, and they were sort of just messing around, to be honest with you. And the speed that those guys have just in a trot was sort of mind-numbing. Alvin and I looked at it and we thought, man, with those guys on the wing and with Lonzo at the point, what we'll be able to do speed-wise is crazy. And then we started sort of integrating all of the rest of the pieces into what we were doing. And to think about a lineup with Brandon out there with Zion and Derek or Jackson with Lonzo, the pieces we can put out there with length and athleticism and a defensive mindset and a selfless nature as players, I don't know that we're going to be a team that necessarily takes a whole bunch of threes. We're going to have wide open shots all over the court. And I think just in terms of the fit of our pieces for Coach Gentry's system, that's the thing that excites us the most, I think.
Kurt, after the Rangers start today, it looks like the roster's down to about 15. Are you guys comfortable with where you're at as of this moment? Do you anticipate any changes happening before camp or the season starts?
Yeah, so obviously once we get Darius signed, we'll be at 15 for the time being. I don't anticipate very many changes. We're actually really excited about a lot of the pieces that we haven't even talked about because they were already here. You know, Jahlil Okafor's had an amazing offseason. His body looks fantastic. And I know he's excited about the opportunity to come in and compete and participate. We just feel really good about where we're at in terms of the human component of the roster. So unless something that I don't foresee happening were to present itself, I think we're probably in a place where we're done, other than the fact that Trajan's going to continue to make hay on the two-way contracts and shoring up our G League team.
Brandon, this was a locker room that was Kentucky blue for a few years. Now it's very much Duke blue. How good a feeling is it of the camaraderie to have five guys from Duke in the locker room?
It's just a good family feel. I think with Duke, you have guys that come back all the time just to play pickup basketball and just to hang out and give each other advice. So it's just good to be back with some of the guys that I've seen over the time that I was at Duke and having the chance to play basketball with those guys.
Any more questions? You started a new podcast between you and now JJ and also Flynn. There's a lot of podcasts now on the team. Where would you put yourself in that group? Are you planning on having those guests?
Yeah, definitely. That's something that I wanted to do just because it gave me a avenue to control the narrative of myself and the guests that I had on my podcast. A lot of times things you say can be taken out of context, and right now everything's about clickbait. So I wanted to be able to control that, and it was just a platform for other people who wanted to be not just athletes, just other people, at the top of the field to go on my podcast and control the narrative about myself. So definitely get some of those guys on, get some of these guys on. It's just a fun, lighthearted podcast.
Griff, it seems like, especially this past offseason, with a lot of players out there, specifically Kawhi Leonard, when you win a title, it's not enough, even in a great city and whatnot. How much more difficult do you feel like your job as a executive vice president, but also working as a GM also becomes when it just doesn't seem like when you're building a foundation, it could flip it in a moment, if that makes sense, and you have to remake yourself over.
Yeah, so I think the game has changed an awful lot from the time I got into it. There was a time where if you were a very forward-thinking front office, you had competitive advantage. And now I think the front offices are so much deeper and so much better across the league that finding advantage is more difficult. And you've seen that in terms of how many well-run franchises there are that are building cultures that sustain themselves and build in a positive direction. Oklahoma City being one of those, obviously. Toronto winning a championship through a group that was raised together in large part through the draft. So they've done those things, and it still wasn't enough to keep very high-profile players. But I think a part of that is just because the energy you put out in the universe is going to attract like energy, right? So our job is to make these guys feel as much as part of the family as they can, such that they can't imagine doing this anywhere else. And I think what happens is you end up in a situation where you're always sort of at the mercy of, Josh used the word narrative, but you're at the mercy of the media kind of discourse around your team. And if you let people listen to any of that noise, it can really direct a lot of what happens. So I think what you have to do as a franchise is make guys feel differently than they feel anywhere else. And then none of that noise matters. And it's a big challenge. I mean, it's very clearly now not just about winning. And it's very clearly now not about geography. There's something else that's at work there. I think the Clippers doing what they did shows that you can plan to be in a position to strike when the iron's hot, and they did. They gave up an awful lot of draft picks to do it, but they were able to create that template. And our job as we build is to always have a template that we can attract the right energy to. So we always need to be able to be flexible enough to do that. But ultimately, it's going to be about how you make people feel. It's not going to be about any of those other things necessarily. It's, do they believe in what we're doing, and do they want to be part of it? And hopefully we can continue that momentum, because this group obviously does.
Lonzo, Josh, and Brandon, we got to see it from this team's perspective last year, but I guess what was it like as young guys trying to improve in this league, having to deal with all the rumors and all the trade talk and stuff like that? And I guess what's it like now to just have it done with and now to kind of move on?
I think it was tough being a young guy, especially in LA. You know, with all the people looking at you, and we had a big responsibility over there. But I think just growing up, being in the league 2 years, you know, you find ways to block it out. And I know I was doing it myself before I got hurt. The last 5 games I played, I know B.I. was, I know J. Hart was. So it comes down to just playing basketball. You know, that's your job. Everything else is just extra.
Alonzo, it's maybe a little unusual to be born like high school, college, and grow all in the same area. How are you approaching being uprooted from your country for essentially the first time in your life and being sent to a place that's considerably different from what you've ever known to work and live?
Like I told everybody, I'm excited. You know, it's a new opportunity for me. You know, a new time in my life, fresh start. I get to go here with 2 guys that I'm already accustomed to. You know, organization. You know, a lot of help. You know, called me right after the trade went through. So, you know, I'm just happy to be here and get back to playing basketball.
Derek, you're another one of those guys, like Drew, who's been underrated. You know, your numbers, not just your defensive numbers, but offensive numbers, have been excellent for the last 4 to 5 years. How important when you look at the other big men around you? Jackson Hayes, obviously very young. Jahlil Okafor young in his career. How important do you think it is to show those guys, you were former top 3 pick, how to develop in this league, how to mature as a post player in this league?
You just gotta know how to put in the work. You know how to be patient. Know how to take advantage of every opportunity that you get. You know, some games you're gonna play great, some games you're not. So it's all about moving on to the next game, next possession, and just coming in every day working. You know, figure out what you got to work on, see what you did wrong either in the last game or the last season, whatever. Work on it, and just keep improving and just have a positive attitude about it.
Any more questions, guys? All right, before we wrap up, we have some jerseys to present to the players.
Hey guys, you stand up here by yourselves now for a second.
All right, well, you're right here for me.